Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to episode 33 of Thrashcast. To help ring in the ghoul tide, we're going to be doing a great spotlight here on Slayer. But before we do, let me welcome in my partners in crime with Billy and Jim. And guys, how you both doing tonight?
All good.
Great. Happy Halloween. It's
Yes,
spooky
exactly.
season.
The best time of year.
Yeah.
My favorite. Even though in my house, Halloween is pretty much 24/7. 365 days a year, but that's beside the point.
Everyone can see that just by looking over your shoulder in
Yeah.
the book there.
Yep. You name it. I have a large mask collection, so but that's cool. All right. So as I mentioned, this is our Halloween episode, so we are going to be doing Rain in Blood, the Mighty Slayer, and what that Billy's got it right there. What a great album. Jim's got it too. What a great album to usher in the the Halloween season. But before we do, let's just let everyone know where you can find us here. You can find us at horrormetalsounds.com. You can also find us on our YouTube channel at ken.2468. And you can also find us on Rumble and Spotify. So also, just another little thing, please like and subscribe to our videos. It really helps us out, helps the podcast grow, and it also lets the algorithm that we're alive and kicking. So we want to get those older videos out there so you can come back and watch, like say Evil Dead or Creator or Sodom or a number of them. We have 32 videos up, so yeah, please go back and check them out. All right, so we'll start with our opening topic as we normally do, and that is what's for the news items and spinning. And Jim, why don't you kick us off tonight?
Yeah, I don't really have any news items this week, but what I've been spinning is I got a couple of things here. I was able to pick up this Obituary CD, which is a live CD with a couple of tracks on it from 2016, 10,000 Ways to Die.
That's a good one.
Yeah, this is really cool. I got it actually at my local record store, pretty good price. And, I saw it and just thought, I need this for my Obituary collection. I guess I do have a small news item. Everybody who tuned in for the live feed of the Obituary shows there, I think in early September, they were delayed getting the shirts out and stuff due to the hurricanes. So they're shipping them now. They've got power, and
cool.
I saw online they're shipping them out. So that's cool. Another album I picked up was this cool one. Not thrash, not death metal, but more of a German power metal band. Orden Ogen, The Order of Fear. These guys are wicked. This is their 2024 release. I was actually, and I got to be honest, I've been waiting for this for a while. eBay has been so slow at getting stuff out. But it finally showed up, and that's a wicked album. And lastly, I got this week on release day. Enforced. Billy did a great review on it, for All Father Metal. So he did a killer review. Check it out. But man, this EP is wicked. Man, like the 3 new songs on it are great. It's got that Deadly Intentions cover is just amazing. And I love the fact this band is so wicked. And Billy, you also did an interview, correct?
Yeah, we went over we chatted about each of the songs and stuff.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wicked. No, I mean, what a band. This band is like everything they put out is just gets better and better and better. And I absolutely love it. The artwork is great. I love it how they kind of stick with this kind of black and white artwork that they've done on their other 3 albums. It's so cool. And I think, man, it's just amazing. And I love the fact they're staying so relevant, and they're getting on a lot of good tours. I think they're getting ready to tour in Europe, I believe. With Gay Creeper, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, they're cool.
Municipal Waste maybe too, who are from the same place they are.
Oh man, and it was a great interview, Billy. Just such a cool. They've been down to earth guys. It seems like.
Yeah. No, he's cool. Yeah.
No, that was really cool. But that's all. Besides Slayer, which I've been listening to, all different Slayer, and getting ready for our top 10 list of what we're gonna do. That's all I got for you guys this week.
All right, cool. How about you, Billy?
Well, Jim beat me to it because
Ah,
my wood spinning, which just
Yeah.
arrived today, actually, from from Amazon. But yeah, I'm not going to repeat. I mean, everything Jim said. But you know, it's really quite cool too. I don't know, like Jim mentioned the obituary cover, which is fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah,
There's
that's great.
another cover called "The Chase Is On"
that's wicked.
by like a British or a UK like. A punk or crossover band, the English Dogs. That surprised me.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
them at
yeah.
all. So like I got
Cool.
to check them out. They're pretty cool.
Sorry, Billy. Didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No worries, no worries. And then news. So I had a couple items, nothing crazy here, but so just one of the things I always enjoy and was announced this week, maybe more for folks in the U.S. or willing to travel, but the Philadelphia Metal and Beer Fest lineup was announced for 2025. So headliners are really cool. So Exodus doing the Bonded by
Oh,
Blood album in full. Uh,
Nice.
so that'll be cool. And then they have Dismember as the other headliner the next
Oh,
day, and
cool.
they're doing the album like an ever-flowing stream, which
Ooh,
is a great
good
album in
album.
full.
Yeah.
Then they throw on, so those are the headline. There's a bunch of other stuff like Eternal Champion. That's a bit different, power metal. Then you got like Demolition Hammer. That'll be cool.
nice.
Darkest Hour, Pig Destroyer, and then a
Ooh.
bunch of like smaller bands I don't know that well. So that's always cool. And if you're a beer fan, I know Jim and I are for sure. All the bands do collaborations with like some really cool craft beer breweries in the U.S. So you're drinking beer named after the bands or their songs or the artwork. So that's pretty cool.
Wicked.
Um, Also, let's give a nod to Thrash in Canada, the band Hazard from Calgary.
Yeah, I saw
Showed
that.
them on like a new Thrash episode we did, but they're pretty cool. They have a new single out called Deathbringer. The album comes out in January 2025. It's called
Cool.
The Third Dimension, so definitely check that out. And then another news item, and I was, texting the guys on this one here, you guys. This one kind of bothered me. So I'm not a Ghost fan by any means, and nor do they meet our thrash definition.
No.
But they're doing like a new major tour, and so they have this rule that no cell phones allowed. Um, so
Stupid.
basically, you walk in through security. I've seen this before in the
Okay.
U.S. actually, not for well, it was for phones, maybe it was, but they give you a little pouch. You put your phone in it, and they use this like magnetic zipper, and you
Okay.
carry the pouch around the whole time.
A
So it's a
pouch.
Oh,
pain in the ass. It doesn't fit nicely in your pocket, so that's a pain, and you can't unzip it till you walk out. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, we're paying so much for concert tickets. I mean, if you want to take pictures or a small video, I'm not saying stand there and video the whole like show. That's crazy and disrespectful. But I mean, with what you're paying, you should be allowed to take a couple pics or take a quick video. And not to mention, what if there's like a family emergency? What if you're going there and you have kids at home and the
yeah.
babysitter needs to reach you? And like your phone's ringing and it's in a stupid pouch so you can't open. So yeah, I just think that's like insanely stupid. But I don't know.
Well,
What do
it's
you guys think?
arrogance.
Do you
It's
think
so
that?
arrogant to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
It reminds me more of a Lars thing. Like
Yeah.
get over your Tobias needs to chill out. Like free marketing. I get it if he doesn't want. I know it's a whole show thing about Papa Emeritus or whatever, and he's probably gonna die and come back or whatever. But like, I mean, let's be honest, the free marketing and the free publicity you get
I
from these
know.
things hitting YouTube and I get it. He doesn't want the whole show, but nobody's really and if you can set it so that YouTube will take out like a whole show type thing, but some pics and some video for personal stuff. I mean, just to post on your own
Yeah,
social media. I mean, like you say, Billy, you're paying that much for tickets. I mean, Jesus Christ. And it's just that's crazy. You want to remember, you're paying $500 or $500. You want to remember this with some with some picture souvenirs, you know, odds are you're going to buy an $80 shirt there, and
Yeah, no
maybe
kidding. Like, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, don't even get me started on that. But, or I guess I got started on it myself. And then one last news item for the sake of time, just in the Sabotage camp. I mean, I think every
Oh,
main
yeah.
fan likes
Yeah.
Sabotage. It doesn't matter what your favorite style is. Everybody knows Sabotage from way back in the day. So, so multiple news this week. So we heard that Sabotage will finally play again at a festival next year, the Monsters of Rock in Brazil. Now, as I was digging around, like that's in like April 2025, and as I was digging around, I discovered that John's not participating. Obviously, I haven't been able to verify that, but that's what the festival said. So Zach is doing the vocals, and it didn't sound like John was even there for keyboards or anything.
Wow.
So that I was wondering that for like 2 days, and then I was scrolling around at lunch today, and then there was the announcement that John made, John Oliva, that he's been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know how to. Do you guys know this disease? I think it goes by another name too, but Meniere's disease.
I've heard of
Meniere's.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I've
think it
heard of
has a
it.
more known name than that. But like,
I
yeah,
think so.
unfortunately, that'll just like eat away at you like over the
Yeah,
years. Uh,
yeah.
that and the MS, like, yeah. So I'm
Well,
guessing that's why he's not like touring, being part of the tour, I assume.
yeah, Meniere's is like almost like a kind of vertigo type thing that gets worse and worse and worse.
Oh, it's
So
vertigo?
yeah, it would be pretty hard to
Oh, okay.
do something, and I think it comes and goes at the start, like when you first get it, and then it gets progressively worse. I think there's medication that helps control it, but yeah, it can get pretty bad.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, so I mean, Sabotage, of course, is most known for this last album that's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to come out
Yeah.
for the last like 15 years. And John said it was ready to go last year, and then he fell and fractured his spine.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last album's called Curtain Call, and his plan was to release that and then do some of the big international festivals, and then that's the official farewell and end of the band. So I don't know kind of what this means for the album or what, but I guess we'll eventually hear.
Yeah,
Sad
Yeah,
news.
that's
very
crazy.
sad.
Very sad.
He's
Very,
had a
very
rough
sad.
life, right? Like
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
battling addiction, and then of course his brother passing.
Yeah.
Passing away, Chris. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. No luck with the Olivias. Let me tell you. Wow.
No, no. But that's it for me.
Okay. All right. So, in the spirit of Halloween, I just one little short news item. Alice Cooper just announced that he's got new tour dates going for January and February of 2025. It'll be an East Coast swing, and he's calling it the Too Close for Comfort Tour. So it should be kind of neat. I don't know if there's going to be more dates announced, but I guess now that he's finished with the Rob Zombie Ministry tour, which was like last year, now he's going back out on his own. I give the guy props. Like for a guy who's like in his 70s and he's still pretty spry, all the power to him to go out there and do that. So it's pretty exciting.
Ken, have you seen him? Like, I'm not an Alice Cooper fan at all,
Yeah.
and like I've seen him play live a few times, like maybe 10 years ago in Europe at festivals. But like nowadays, have you seen him? Like, is he putting on like a killer show, or is it more of just
Yeah,
going
it's
through the motions?
Yeah.
yeah, he's got a really cool stage show still.
Yeah.
He's now got it down to a certain amount of numbers, so it's not as crazy as how it was back in like say 20 years ago with the chopped off heads and the guillotine. He does the Feed My Frankenstein song, and he's got a setup for that. So like he's got it down to a science now, which is good.
His voice is still good live.
His voice is still
Yeah.
pretty good. I mean, it's not. I mean, I know you and I were talking before about singers. Like I was saying how Bruce is not as good as he used to be. But then you were saying, well, you could say that for most singers, and that's true here. So, like, he's still pretty good for a guy in his 70s. But
and his last album, I liked his last album.
yes,
I thought
me
it was
too.
really cool.
On the road, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. I like all his albums. All his
Same with me.
albums are. There's not really a bad album he puts out. Not that I can think of.
I first saw him on the Constrictor tour,
Yeah,
and seen him on Trash.
yeah,
I saw him on the same tour 3 times one time because I was traveling for my work and kept hitting him in cities in Atlantic provinces. So it was kind of cool.
yeah.
So I think it was Dirty Diamonds I saw him on.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good
Yeah,
album too. I like that album.
but
It's
yeah,
great.
I'd go if he can't. Man, I would go see him in a heartbeat. Such a great show.
Yeah, he puts on an awesome show, and he's got a great band. He still has Ryan Roxy on lead guitar. He's still got Nita
Nita
Strauss in the
Strauss.
band. Yeah,
Yeah,
so like he's got a great group of like musicians around him. So I don't think he ever puts on a bad show. Not that
no.
I not, and I've seen him a handful of times, and it's all been good. I've never had a bad experience. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. So so for what's spinning now, because it's Halloween and I wanted to get into the spirit of it. I'm a big soundtrack guy, so I have a very, very large collection of soundtrack music, like horror, fantasy, whatever. I have a lot of it. So this week I've been spinning some albums, and the first album that I've been spinning is Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola film from like the early 90s. I love this soundtrack. It's such a fantastic soundtrack by composer Wojciech Kilar. What a great soundtrack. This is one of my all-time favorite soundtracks. So I've been listening to that this week, and everyone knows this. I mean, this is classic The Omen soundtrack with Jerry Goldsmith. I love it. I love this classic horror film soundtrack. It's so great. Been listening to that all week. And here's one that I'm not sure if anyone remembers. I have it. This is Van Helsing's Curse. It's by D. Snyder. He wrote this and conceived the concept. So it's like, I guess the best way to describe it is that it's sort of like a narrated story with music, and it tells the story of Van Helsing and that he's cursed. It's a really good soundtrack. I love it. It's um, the ultimate Halloween soundtrack. I think this is great. So I've had it for a long time. Came out in 2003, so I don't know if a lot of people ever talk about it, but I think it's a cool soundtrack.
Cool. I figured you'd pull out Ghoulies with "Scream Until You Like It" by Wasp. I love those Ghoulies movies.
Wait, Jim. As a hint, wait to Thursday.
Okay.
We got something coming.
Okay.
We got something coming. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that song by Wasp.
Yeah.
They're actually in the video too, which is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny stuff. All right, so that's what I'm spinning for this week. So I guess now what we'll do is we'll just get into the album itself. I know that Slayer doesn't need any in it. You got it there. Sorry. Actually, no. I got it all backwards here. Let's start with the questions first, then we'll dive into the album. It's a good idea. What am I thinking here? So we'll start with the first question, and I think we kind of already know what we're going to say, but what was your first reaction when you first heard Rain in Blood? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Billy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us are going to say we hate it.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It's actually, for me, it's my it's my favorite Slayer record, and my all-time. I would rank it like, I think I ranked it fourth in my top 50.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
very few albums beat it out. So yeah, I love it. It just blew me away. Just the speed, the aggression, the big step up in production. Didn't really know, like, Rick Rubin coming on board, like what would that be? But he did a fantastic job. I mean, Dave's drumming is just off the charts.
Yeah.
This record, Jeff and Kerry, well, I mean, they're just incredible, just vicious, fast, and relentless, right? Beginning to end. Fantastic record. And so it's only, we were saying before, it's like 25 or 28 minutes or whatever it is, but not a second wasted. So no filler. And I've got to say, it'll come up, but it's bookended by the two best songs in heavy metal history, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
There you go.
I would agree. And how about you, Jim? What was your reaction?
Oh man, I mean, Slayer I was already familiar with. I think the first Slayer tape I got was Haunting the Chapel. So I got that like out of a bin prior to getting like I think I got Hello Waits first and then went back and got Show No Mercy. But when waiting for Slayer albums to come out, this came out, blew me away. It's my second favorite Slayer album. I'll catch some heat for this. Only points behind my favorite is South of Heaven, and it's more along the lines of, I think, the time of my life of when I got it. This came out in 86, and
86, yeah.
I think South of Heaven came out in 88.
88, yeah.
Yeah. So it just, I mean, I was a little older. I think I was grade 11 in high school, and but anyways, I mean, this is a monumental album from the artwork to the writing. I mean, you've got, what is it? All the songs are written pretty much by Kerry and Jeff. I think they all are.
I think King wrote a few more songs than Jeff, but
Yeah.
But Jeff wrote all the best ones on.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and I agree. I have to agree with. I mean, we don't want to get into I'll give away our thoughts on the album, but it is bookended by two hell of a songs. I mean, my God, anyways, I'll talk about it when we get into the songs.
Well, like I'm trying to think of another album that has that good of a first and closing.
Yeah.
And there's some that are good, right? Like, Metallica, Master is a good opener, but not to the extent of like yeah.
I mean, it's like you're catching your breath from the first song all the way through to that last note on the last song, and it blows you away. But I mean, I think I was commenting earlier, 28 minutes 55 seconds for the original, no extras, the CD version or tape version or album version, and it's just, there's not a second wasted on this puppy. It's just amazing. I mean, again, we talk about albums like Judas Priest last week, where when you think about these albums that mean so much to metalheads, this is one of them. And everything from Tom's voice, it's just, everything fit perfectly. And it's just these group of albums, Hell Awaits, this, South of Heaven, Seasons. I mean, it's just Show No Mercy. It's just, and I mean, like Billy hit it on the head too. Each one, the production got that much better. So, like from the first album to this, it's the miles ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, see, when I first heard this album, I was working in the summers for a pool company. So there was a guy that worked there. He was like a burnout metalhead guy. He kept on saying, "You got to hear this Slayer album." And I was like, I know the band, but I haven't really invested my time because I was really into like Iron Maiden, Metallica, and Anthrax at the time. So I didn't really like latch onto the whole Slayer thing right away. So he lends me the vinyl, and so I go over to my buddy's house because he had a record player. So we played it, and we were just speechless. We were like, "Holy shit!" It just went, and it was like, "What the fuck are we hearing?" I loved it. I was hooked for the first time I heard this album, and then I went out and went back and bought all the Slayer albums I could buy. And this album it's funny, like you hear it now, it's great, but when you first hear it for the very first time, it just gives me chills.
You know what?
It's that
What's
good.
neat about this being the big four, like when you were a kid growing up, I mean, we're all roughly about the same age, all from different kind of parts of the country. But when I was in Nova Scotia growing up, it was everybody Metallica, and then Slayer was sort of the evil cousin, and Dave's band Megadeth just it was like the little brother, and then you had Anthrax off to the side, like. But this, everybody would be like, "Oh my God, you listen to Slayer?" Yeah, ooh, ooh, you had that persona with it. But I mean, that's what drew me to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you go way back in the day with those big four, I mean, those early Slayer shows live were legendary, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the place was a zoo, right? None of the other three had audiences like that.
Do you know what's neat about that comment? You take the death metal band Death, and their early shows, very similar to the feeling that you get. Like when I've never seen Death, obviously, live, but when I watch those old videos from the CDs, Billy, you actually told me to go buy, and you can match them to the videos, like they have them on YouTube, and that people were just so friggin' amazed with what was going on, and there was so much magic happening. Those two bands are very similar with that kind of, like, I don't know if they knew at the time exactly how special like these two bands were from two different genres, but just so cool. It blows my mind. I find there's always kind of in the in the later 80s into the 90s when Death started bringing out all their albums, I just thought, oh my God, this is like a Death version of Slayer, kind of 2.0, kind of, it was pretty. I see so many similarities, and with the audience part of it, when you watch these shows, there's magic happening.
Yeah. So Jim, hold that thought, because we're kind of the conversation is veering into the second question, which I was I'll just quickly mention, and I'll go back to you. So where would you rank this album? Like, you had Anthrax Among the Living, you had Metallica's Master of Puppets, and Megadeth's Peace Sells. Where do you rank Rain in that 4 album grouping?
Number 1 for me.
Number 1? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, because my favorite Metallica album is Kill 'Em All, but I mean, I would name that number 1 out of those 4.
Okay. How about you, Billy?
Oh, yeah, easy number 1, particularly because these 3 albums are not even my favorite albums by those bands.
Yeah.
Like I run into, like, I would rank, so not Master. I prefer Rain and Blood over Master, but I slightly prefer Justice over Rain and Blood. It was the only album of any of the big 4. And then you got Rust in Peace would come close too. Like, all 3 of those are right, like, up there close together.
And I got to be honest with you, Ken. I would rank like one of my favorite Anthrax albums, Spreading the Disease.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love Among the Living as well. So, but yeah, Rust in Peace, and for me, it'd be Kill 'Em All. But man, I don't know. I love this album, and I also love South of Heaven. I just love that. I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that's fair enough. I mean, for me, it's going to be Among the Living, because it just is. I can't say why, but it's an album that grabbed me, and I love Rain as well. I love all these albums, actually. I don't really have a problem, but I guess everyone will have that one favorite that they'll just favorite, like, take over another album. I mean, Master's a great album, but I can see a lot of people liking Justice just a little bit more. And I always like Peace Sells. I know a lot of people prefer.
Oh, I love Peace Sells.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of people really like Rust in Peace.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a matter of what your taste is when you think about it. But so that's some good answers. So we're gonna go into question number 3, and this is sort of a holdover from our Priest podcast from last week. What do you think about the comparison? Say, last week we talked about how Painkiller was such an incredible experience from Ram It Down. What do you think from Hell Awaits to Rain and Blood, Billy?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's anywhere near as dramatic a change. I mean, definitely there's a difference, 100%. But for me, maybe not to the magnitude of those 2 Priest albums. But your point's very valid. There's definitely a difference, right? I mean, significantly better production on this. We talked about that, so I like that way more. Hell Awaits. I mean, for me, Hell Awaits, it may be my second favorite Slayer record, right behind this one. So I don't get that, like, massive kind of, like, jump up that maybe others might. But again, it's, the Rain of Blood's mostly short. Hell Awaits has longer songs, more varied tempos on Hell Awaits. I mean, Rain and Blood, as we're going to talk about, is just full throttle, relentless, 120%. So definitely some differences. So the point's valid that there's a noticeable change. But I like both of those records quite a bit.
Cool. And how about you, Jim?
Oh, I mean, I agree with what Billy said. I probably, like, again, these are only points of points. I go with South of Heaven, Rain and Blood, Seasons, and Hell Awaits. But only, like, I mean, Hell Awaits has one of my favorite songs on it. What is it called? At Dawn They Sleep. I love that song.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe artwork's a little bit more, I don't know, man, a little bit more occultish on Hello Waits, which I love. But then I love the aggressive violence on this album. I mean, you can't Angel of Death just, I mean, there's so much controversy, and I love controversy around these albums because that's what when I was a kid, and still I'm 53-year-old guy and I still love this shit that's poke the man, we want this. And if when Facebook gets to ban you for an album cover, I think that's cool. So but I mean, it's just as far as the step up, I would agree with Billy. Production wise, it's a bit better, but other than that, I think the writing's great on both. The music part of it is just amazing. Tom's voice, great on both. This is just a bit faster, a bit more aggressive, but I love the production's just that much better.
Yeah, the veracity of it, I think.
Yeah.
That's where the difference is.
Yeah.
Where they just decided to be a bit more nastier with the lyrics.
Yeah.
Especially because we'll be talking about that tonight, because the lyrics to me are what stand out to me the most on this album. But before we get to that, so I know Jim kind of barely touched on the album cover art. This was Larry Carroll's first piece for Slayer. Now, Larry did a lot of political illustrations, so he did stuff for The Village Voice, New York Times. And oddly enough, Slayer hated the cover. They didn't like it. Carey was, and I don't know why, I'm not too sure, because they obviously they commissioned him to do the work, but Carey didn't like the cover. He actually went on to insult the artist by calling him a warped, demented freak. And he's been quoted as saying that. So it's kind of funny, but I tend to love the cover. It's unusual. It's a bit different than, say, what you got with South of Heaven, which I think I might like South of Heaven a little bit more, the cover wise, but I love this cover. What do you think of it, Jim?
Oh, I love this cover. I love he did 3 covers, right? Christ Illusion? Yeah. Christ Illusion is an underrated Slayer gem. I love the artwork on it because it just punches you in the face. It's like the band artwork for even God Hates Us All. I mean, that Bible with all the nails and stuff. And Gary is so opinionated about his own albums that I kind of like that, but also I get kind of like defensive because I love Slayer. He should love Slayer all the time, but like he said that he hated the album cover for God Hates Us All because it looked like a 5th grade school project where you make this look evil and we'll jam as many nails and burn it. But I liked it. I thought it was cool.
So do I.
Yeah,
I like that cover
think
too.
this Larry Carroll, I obviously Googled him and went through it. Oh man, he's got the artwork is awesome. And the artwork for this, I mean, that is satanic. I love it. Yeah. That's what we want. We want people to, go into the record store in 1986. What are you going to buy, that? Or are you going to buy, I don't know, Poison's Open Up and Say Ah, or Look What the Cat Dragged In? I'm going home with this, even though I did
obviously.
I bought the Poison one too, but I bought this one first.
I get it.
I love it. Love his album covers, and Christ Illusion's amazing album cover.
Yeah, it's a good album cover too. I would agree. What about you, Billy?
Yeah, no, I like it. Like it's pretty crazy. It's out there. Like I don't know, like I look at it and I think like I'm looking at it now. It's like it's kind of like hellish but it kind of chaotic, and it kind of perfectly matches the music that's in it, right? So it works. I mean, you got like these like demonic like figures and twisted faces. Like it's really wild stuff. Like heads on the bottom, and so yeah, like to Jim's point, like album covers are supposed to get your attention to pick up a copy, right? And this still kind of falls into the time where everyone was going to record stores, right? So it makes sense. But one thing I always find funny, so obviously everyone knows the front cover, but the vinyl has the big picture on the back. This always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
somebody
cool.
not tell Dave like it was supposed to be angry. Like Dave looks like he's just, reading a book or having like this fun day or something. And the other 3 guys have this angry, aggressive look.
Well, Tom, holy shit.
But yeah, but you see, like Dave, he's just like, a day in the garden or something. Like it always makes me laugh.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. All right, so that'll round out the questions for Slayer. So we added a fun little bonus this time, a fifth question, and I wanted to know what your favorite horror movie or Halloween themed film would be. And the other one is, do you have like a favorite silver screen villain? And if you do, tell us why. So we'll start with you, Billy.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, I'll admit I'm not the biggest like horror movie like fan, but my wife's a
Yeah.
big horror movie fan. So I've seen my share of them, but I tend to know more of the older,
Okay.
maybe not old like black and white old, like Vincent Price or stuff like that, but sort of like stuff in the late 70s and 80s more so. But for me, it's the Halloween movies are
Oh
my
yeah.
favorite, right? And so I just there's something about it, like it's hard to put my finger on it, but and at the same time, my favorite villain is like Michael Myers, right?
Okay.
It's
Cool.
just it's kind of the movies are like so like suspense, there's it's the suspense, like it's not overly violent, it's not like those
No.
Saw movies or that crazy stuff. Uh, it's the suspense that kind of drives the fear, right? And I love those scenes where like all of a sudden someone will turn around and they think they see the figure of Michael, and then you'll hear that famous music. Like I love
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
theme music and just those sudden flashes, and then you got like Dr. Loomis running around, like building the fear that he's like completely crazy, and they shoot him 7 times and then he's gone again, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. Those always appeal to me. Those are my favorite.
Cool. Yeah, and do you have like a favorite silver screen villain at all, or no?
Oh, I mean, I would pick Michael Myers.
Okay, do you have? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
perfect. Yeah, those movies are great. Like you know, like the John Carpenter film score, that synth score
Yeah.
is classic. I love that score. It's such a great score. And this movie was shot for like a really
Yeah,
cheap
nothing,
budget.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
30, what
And
was it,
they
like $300,000 or something?
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Something
yeah. And the
crazy. Yeah.
mask was basically William Shatner. It's a William Shatner mask that they got from a hardware store.
Oh, I
So
didn't
they
know
took
that.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically William Shatner, and then they basically painted it white and stuck it on his head. So it's kind of funny.
Oh,
It,
okay.
there's so many little anecdotes you could talk about that, but it's a good choice, Billy.
There's
What about
another
you?
movie
Yeah,
that I really liked, and
yeah.
I can't remember, but I bet you'll know, Ken. So, like, I remember bits and pieces of it. I think it was a John Carpenter movie as well.
Okay.
It was, and I think it had Alice Cooper in it,
Oh,
who
Prince
was
of
like a
Darkness.
homeless person out
Yeah,
front.
Prince
Do
of
you know what
Darkness.
was that
Prince
called?
of Darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, Prince
Oh
of
yeah, I
Darkness.
always liked that one too. I couldn't for the life of me remember the name of it, but that movie I always liked too.
Yeah, he's great in that movie. He's like a vagabond outside. He's
Hmm.
so great, so creepy. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good movie. That's a very interesting film.
And that thing
I've always liked
growing
it.
in that jar or whatever in the church,
Yes, which
or
was
like
like
yeah.
meant to be like eternal evil
Is that
in
yeah, yeah,
some
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
form. Yeah, yeah, that's a
I
great
couldn't
movie too.
remember the name of it.
Oh, that's okay. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's a good choice. I mean, there's even an Alice Cooper song he covered it, "Prince of Darkness," which appeared on the soundtrack.
Oh, okay,
So
cool,
he did that.
cool.
Okay, Jim. What are your choices?
Oh, well, I mean, the original Halloween is probably my favorite. I mean,
Yeah.
Billy hit on all of it. I remember seeing that as a kid and scared the shit out of me. But I like the cheesy, when I used to go to in the 80s to rent movies, that I'd always like, I like Night of the Creeps and the
Oh,
stuff,
that's a good one.
the one with the
Yeah.
tongues and
Yes,
the
yes.
stuff with the ice cream.
Mhm.
And I mean, even the kind of funny one, Killer Clowns from Outer
Yep.
Space, and that has
Great
a really good
movie.
soundtrack to it too.
Yep, yep, yep.
Those movies, just I love them so much. They're just so bad, but they're so good. And I think my favorite on-screen villain. The first time my friend had this, I remember in Canada you could get first choice in the Star Channel. They were
Yeah.
Yeah, I
paid.
remember. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's right.
his grandfather had them, and he would tape all the movies and give them to him when I think he had a Betamax. So, anyways, we would watch them. And the first time I saw, which one was it? Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched it one summer every day, and it was just, I mean, Freddy would have to be, he is such a great character because he's got that, he's so nasty, but he's got that little air of humor with him too. And Robert Englund is amazing, and I loved him in V because I'm a sci-fi guy, so it was like a total fit. But, you know, I got to admit, I loved seeing Johnny Depp get it in that movie when he got liquefied in his bed listening to music. I love that. Because, you know, Johnny Depp's a bit of a tool bag. But anyways, I think that's great. But the other genre of horror movies, I don't know if these are horror movies, but like, I'm scared to death of the Blair Witch movie. The first one.
The found footage films.
Oh, man. And then the Purge movies. I can't, man, I watched the first Purge movie. I can't watch any of them. Those masks, man. They freak me out.
Yeah, The Purge is okay. My wife and I saw them all. We went to the theater and watched them all. They're all right. It's the concept gets to be a bit repetitive, but they're creepy.
It could happen. I could see like Trump getting in and then making a purge.
One night, lock your doors because if you're outside, you're dead.
And then I start thinking, where would I hide? And I'm coming up with places, and it's like starting to really bug me out because I'm like, I think my staff would be hunting me more than anybody. I don't think I'm safe on purge night.
Let's kill Jimmy. Let's get the boss.
Anyways.
Cool. That's some good choices. Well, mine will always be Hellraiser.
Cool.
I've seen it when it came out. It blew me away. I'm a huge Clive Barker fan. He's like my favorite horror writer of all time. Nobody will ever beat him as a writer. I read his novella, The Hellbound Heart, before I saw the movie. And then when I saw the movie, it blew me away. It was almost like talking about Rain and Blood. When I saw that movie, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was that freaky and bizarre, and Pinhead is such a great villain. I totally love that movie.
That's the guy with the needles in his face?
Oh, the pins, yeah, that's right.
With the pins?
Okay. Yeah. It's such a great concept. It's such a great character. But I decided for my on-screen villain, I went with Vincent Price, and I went with a character he made created in the 70s called the Abominable Dr. Phibes. So it's 2 movies. He actually made 2 movies, and they're made in Britain. He's kind of creepy in them, and basically the whole premise is that he uses like Old Testament disasters to kill people. So like there's a scene where there's a plague of locusts, attack of rats, all like Old Testament shit. And I love that. It was only the 2 movies he made, but I think he's such a great villain in those 2 movies. But if you're into watching them, Jim, check them out. You might like them. They're a lot of fun.
Was Vincent Price in Fright Night? The original Fright Night?
No, you're thinking about Roddy McDowall.
Oh, that's Roddy McDowall played the vampire hunter.
Yeah, from the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Roddy McDowall who was in that. But
okay.
You know, I mean, Vincent Price's last horror movie was Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, okay.
Before he passed away, but he's a great, he was a great villain for a lot of movies. Totally dig him.
So you like the Cenobites and Pinhead? Do you have any of the figures? Like, did you?
I have them all.
I kind of figured you did.
I have them all. Oh yeah. It's funny nowadays. Those figures go for like crazy prices on eBay if you can find them. But I bought them all when they came out. I bought every single one of them, and I totally love them. I even like have a bunch of model kits that I built as well. So I love that character. It's such a great character. Such a great character. I didn't like the remake that came out last year, but they made him a girl. They turned him into a woman, but that was okay because in the novella he's sort of I guess you could say he's kind of a man woman. It's not really stated, but so I guess it made sense to sort of change the gender to a woman, but a lot of modern horror movies, I think, are not that great these days. What can you do? What can you do? All right, so that was fun. I'm glad we got our choices out there. So, just a little way to celebrate Halloween. So we'll get into the album for Rain and Blood. Slayer doesn't really need a bio. I mean, we all know who they are, where they came. But this album came out on, it's the third release, came out on October 7th, 1986. It actually did come out in the Halloween season, so that's kind of funny. Too bad it didn't actually come out on the 31st, but that's kind of cool. It received no radio or airplay, which is amazing. So nobody wanted to touch this sucker when it came out.
No surprise there.
Nobody wanted to touch it. But it was their for even though it got no radio airplay, it was their first album to chart at number 127, and 6 weeks later it peaked at number 94, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it.
But in fairness, no one was were radios playing like Master or any of that stuff.
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't like only with MTV and videos it came.
Yeah. I think you're right. Maybe the videos is where you would have saw maybe like Headbangers Ball, maybe
or something like that.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I can't recall like hearing Metallica on the radio in '86.
No, me neither. Right. That's why it's such a big thing when they made that first video. Right. That was only outreach. Right. Like
yeah. But the album did okay. Like in the UK charts, it did really well, and eventually it did go gold in the US in '92. So I mean, obviously people got into it, right? It took
that long to go gold. Eh?
Is it still gold? It must be more than gold now. No,
I'm sure it is. I didn't look any further, but I just know like in '92 it finally made it to go gold. But you're right. Now it's probably well past that. It should be.
Yeah,
it should be for sure. So the album was kind of I should say it was critically acclaimed at the time. Of course, it had that controversial track, "Angel of Death," which we'll talk about tonight. What's funny though, at the time, Def Jam, their distributor was Columbia Records, and they didn't even want to touch it. They were like, "No, we're not putting this out." So apparently, Geffen stepped in, and they decided that they would distribute the album. Only thing that they did is they kept it off their release schedule. They didn't announce it. And basically, Geffen kept their logo off the album as well. So if you look at it, there's no Geffen logo on it, even though they distributed at the time. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So this album, man, I tell you, it was like death to people, I guess. But I don't know. It's so strange. They went on tour with Overkill that year, so that was great. And then I think in Europe they had Malice join them, so that was all right. And then in '87 they opened for Wasp on the US tour. The other big thing that happened around this time is Dave Lombardo actually left the band. And I think it was over money issues, but he was gone for like several months. And so they replaced him with Whiplash drummer Tony Scaglione, who was filling in. So eventually I've read that Rick Rubin really, he went out to see Dave, drove in his Porsche, apparently, and picked him up and persuaded him to come back to the band. And I think he also gave him a personal salary for him to come back and rejoin Slayer. But you know full well what happened with Dave later on. He was always complaining about the money.
Yeah. But thank God he got him on there, right? I mean, almost every song, one of the best moments of every song, in my opinion, is Dave. So
yeah, absolutely, for sure it is. Like, yeah, Dave is a great drummer. Right? It's just too bad that the other, especially Kerry. Like Kerry says he's dead to him. Like, okay, whatever. But like, dude, the guy's a great drummer. No offense to Paul Bostoff, who I think is a good drummer too. But I prefer Dave Lombardo any day. I'll take Dave any day of the week. But oh well. Anyway, so that's just a bit of a bio on Slayer. So we'll get into the album now. Of course, we're going to talk about the first track, the most controversial track ever. Jim, start us off with your thoughts on Angel of Death.
Oh, I mean, this is an amazing track. I mean, it grabs you right from the get-go. The drums are so good on this, as I'm sure Billy's going to say. And Tom's scream that just lights up this song. This was written by Jeff. And I mean, it's a mainstay song for Slayer. This is one of their best. I mean, if everybody lists their top 10, it's in everybody's top 10 list, I would say. And then the controversy behind the lyrics and the actual tone of the song with the human experiments at Auschwitz. So they got kind of accused of maybe Nazi sympathizing, which absolutely isn't the case. It's just the song. It's not celebrating it. It's just the song. And but anyways, great song. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to steal everybody's thunder with the first song. So
no problem. Well, I'll just basically add on the lyrical side. So Jeff had read a lot of books on Joseph Mengele, and that's where he got the idea for the song. But I know you're right. You were just saying that he took a lot of heat for it, but he's even come back and stated that, look, I just wrote a song about this. It's not like I'm picking a side or I'm a Nazi sympathizer, because I'm not. It was just he was fascinated by the whole experience. But I could see that being like in '86. Now we're talking 1986.
yeah.
So I could very much see that being kind of an issue. But you know, it's a great song for sure. And Billy, what do you want to add to this song?
Yeah, I mean, I could do a whole podcast on this song, but yeah, like for me, it's the best song on the album. There's no doubt.
Okay.
The and I think it's the best heavy metal song ever written. That might be controversial, but in my opinion, it's my favorite heavy metal song of any heavy metal genre.
Can't argue it.
I guess so. You mentioned the lyrics and the whole concept, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm always two sides with that, right? Like, part of me feels, yeah, I agree. Like Jeff had said, you know, he's not like condoning it or anything like that.
No.
But like, I do think, you know, make no mistake about it. They chose that topic because it would get attention.
Yeah.
Hell, it almost got their album not even released, right?
That's true. Yeah.
But like, and I also kind of say, well, this is one of world's worst events to ever happen, right? So, so I don't know, like to get, you know, just to use that dreadful topic as the lyrics of a song to get attention, to some degree, it does a bit of injustice to those events that happen. But again, you know me, I'm not a big lyric guy, so it's not going to sort of stop me from loving the track. But I was always a mixed emotion. Right? Like, I mean, is that a topic you should touch? Right? You hear like people who went through that, you know, just to get attention. It probably wasn't worth bringing that up. But again, let's get off that topic. I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, no worries.
But the other kind of thing is, so I don't know if this is true. I read this, but the first time Slayer ever played this song live was on Halloween.
Yes,
October
I read that
31st. So I don't know if that's true, but I think that's kind of fitting for this episode. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean those main riffs, right? Like they are so damn memorable. The solo section, like it's just they brought this so like the dueling, like so the trade-offs, right, between Carrie and Jeff, and just they were chaotic, they were vicious, they were fast, so good, and you know, especially this part is my favorite part of the song, right? Like at 3:35, you get they're trading off those crazy leads, super aggressive, and then all of a sudden they stop, and you get Dave's like infamous sudden double bass kicks that come in, and then the song sort of takes off again. So yeah, that's my favorite part of the song. But just everything's memorable. Tom, his vocal delivery is just super like aggressive. He's spewing lyrics like a machine gun, like so good. The guitars, I mean, everything. The only thing that I think that I can't call out instrumentally, like I never listen to it and say, oh, that's a cool bass part.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
a
don't
good point.
know. Again, Tom's doing the vocals, so that's more than a job in its own. But yeah, I think it's like fantastic. And as I said, easily, in my opinion, best heavy metal song ever written, lyrics aside.
No, I can't argue with you there. That like the song, it's memorable, and you'll never forget the song for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny because in the '90s, when I got into like industrial metal, the industrial metal band Cam FDM actually used that solo, the one at 138. They actually used it in one of their songs, and I was like, "What the hell? I'm hearing Slayer." So obviously, this song, I think it's pretty influential. It probably reached a lot of different kind of other bands who heard it and was like, wow. So it's an iconic song. Let's just be honest.
But
That's
you know what? What I like about it is that Slayer is always reaching those, kind of always pushing those limits. I mean,
yeah,
you got the cover of Christ Illusion that was banned in a lot of countries
yeah,
because it shows a
that's right.
dismembered version of Jesus, which I think, and you know, the God hates us all. I mean, I've seen an interview with Carrie saying, God doesn't hate. We want to grab the listener and get the listener in, and yeah, and I agree. I think Billy hits it on the head. It's a double-edged sword. You know, you've got the lyrics, maybe a topic that's definitely not something that you really want to, you know, it's just something you don't want to sing about. But I think the song itself, musically, the song is just phenomenal. I mean, that is just one hell of a heavy track.
Yeah, and we talk
Absolutely.
about Dave, right? The impact he has. So
Yeah.
this song,
Yeah.
like at the very opening,
Yeah.
when it kicks off, you actually have Dave, and like
Yeah.
the song kicks off with him doing these really cool drum
Yeah.
fills. Like who opens a song with
With the
like
drum fills, yeah.
complex drumming, like kind of a thing, right? Like not your standard beat. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and then just pummeling is overused for drums, I think, but he literally does, right? There's the parts where he just like it's just a wave of that drum sound, right? Like the
Yeah.
aggression and the heaviness through the whole thing, right? Like on every song, he's a star.
No,
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we'll go to track number 2, Piece by Piece. And Jim, what do you think?
Oh, it's a great song, and this is another one that just rips in with drums and heavy guitars right from the get-go. I
Yeah.
mean, a great continuation. It's got those super fast array of vocals. I like it. I mean, there's not a bad song on the album. I've got a lot of ones here, but this is a great track. This was written by Carrie, so
Yeah.
you know, and it just kind of goes back and forth. It's either Carrie, Jeff and Carrie. So it's kind of cool. And I gotta be honest, I didn't realize that a lot of the early stuff, like Tom didn't really write a lot of it. Like
No.
I kind of really didn't even realize that until I started doing a lot of like digging for this. Cause I just was looking and I was like, wow, okay. You know, and that gives like why Carrie can play all these songs because he's written most of them on his with his solo band when he tours. So you know, definitely. But no, this is another great drum track as well. I think you know, you guys hit it on the head with Dave's kind of definitely the unsung hero on this album. You know, and just rips it for sure.
Well, you know what's funny? When you mentioned that this is written by King, obviously, the lyrical content's all about it's a violent song about evil predators
Yeah.
who prey upon the innocent. So it's funny because I almost feel like it's a one up. It's like, okay, Jeff, you had the first song. I'm gonna one up you with mine, and mine is piece by piece. So I'm just gonna lay it out there. So I just kind of it's funny how the dynamics for me from song to song go. You get Jeff with the first, and then you get King coming and going, well, yeah, well, I'm going to top you with this one. Because I always kind of thought that Jeff and King and Carrie sort of had a bit of a competitive nature
Oh, I'd
playing
say.
music. It's obvious to me, just hearing King and talk about Jeff over the years. But yeah, I think it's a great song too. And what do you think of it, Bob, Billy?
Yeah, no. So yeah, this one is all King, but I would say the majority of the best songs are written by Hanneman,
Yes,
and many
yes,
of the others are written
I
by
agree.
them.
Yeah.
But that's slightly off topic. But yeah, so this is good. This kind of starts the trend of the short songs, right? Your book ended with the two best songs, but also the two longer songs, and now we get into the short stuff, right? Like, and I like this, right? This kind of has kind of like a really cool, like thrash groove in the first half, but then gets like really, it's like crushing and heavy towards the end. Like I get some like hardcore punk influences a
Oh
little
yeah.
on
I
this
could see
one.
that. Yeah.
It's interesting because there's no lead section.
No,
I mean, it's only 2 minutes, but you've got like two amazing guitarists, and you don't actually get any leads. And
no
I just
leads.
love,
Yeah,
Yeah, and I love the way the song ends, right? Just Tom yelling, "There's only one way out of here, piece by piece," and then the track just kind of closes, right? Yeah, it's great. It's only 2 minutes, but it's a great 2 minutes.
But do you notice though, like the second half of the song, Tom is just basically trying to keep up. Like he's just spitting out the lyrics. It's not even like singing.
Oh
It's just
yeah, no, yeah,
because he wants to keep up with the
yeah,
pace, right?
yeah. Like how
And
many times I wonder did he have to record those vocals?
Yeah.
But
yeah, who knows? But you're right about the punk influence. I think that's where it comes up in that bit. Like it's just, oh, here we go, and it's just fueled with that quick tempo all the way through. But it's a good song. I would agree with you guys. Like it's a great 1-2 punch. Number one, number two. So we'll go on to the third one, Necrophobic, and we'll stick with you, Billy. What do you think of it?
yeah, I think it's another. I mean, we're going to sound a bit repetitive here because,
Yeah,
like, I'm
probably.
not going to say anyone. Like, I think we may have done a podcast on this album in another world, and
Yeah.
there were one or two. Maybe I must have been having a bad day because I remembered I thought they were like a step down, but like when I
Okay.
re-listened to it, I don't think that anymore. So I think
Okay.
they're
Good.
all
Good.
like very good. But yeah, on this track, it's like that opening riff is really memorable again. The You were speaking of like Tom trying to keep up with the vocals. Like this would be another one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah. Yeah.
screaming his lyrics at this crazy pace. I find this is the one track here that probably reminds me the most of something that comes from like Hell Awaits, the pre
Hmm.
record.
Good
I,
point.
I kind of always got that feel. I like the way kind of halfway through, it does slow down very briefly, a bit of a tempo change. And then this, of course, has an amazing Tom scream toward the end as well. So, yeah, another great, incredibly short, maybe the shortest track,
Yeah.
actually. Uh,
140.
but yeah, not a second wasted.
No, no, that's true. And then now you get Jeff and Carrie coming together to write the
Yeah.
lyrics in this song. It's a brutal song about the fear of death, necrophobic. So I mean, you can't go wrong there. And Jim, anything you want to add to the song?
Oh man, yeah, I like the fact they're dual writing this one because they
Yeah,
each took a stab at one. Now they're kind of joining
yeah,
forces, but maybe their competitive nature only made it a minute 40. But I
maybe.
think it's great. It's got some great solos. I love that tearing limb from limb. And I
Yeah,
agree. Billy hit it on the head by saying so, like on many of the songs that are coming up, and I should have said this when you asked the difference between like maybe a step up from Hell Awaits. I find this has a lot more groove and melody on the album, but
okay,
this song definitely could fit on Hell Awaits, where there really wasn't a lot of groove or melody on that album. So
right.
I agree with that comment 100%. And I think it's a great track, and it's leading up to some massive, massive, massive songs.
Yep, and that's track number 4, Altar of Sacrifice. And Jim, go for it.
Oh yeah, written by Carrie. Oh
Yep.
man, this thing's fast and heavy. And I think this is one of Tom's best vocal performances on there. I just love he's just spits it out. And enter the realm of Satan. I
That's
Yeah,
the
love
best line.
the
yeah,
subject
that's
matter.
right. That is the best line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's groovy though. It's groovy and it's got that groovy sound to it, especially towards the end of the song. I like it, and it's got another. It's just a wicked track, great solo. I mean, but I finally start. I mean, I guess there was a little bit of groove maybe on Angel of Death, maybe not so much on Piece by Piece, but I find on this one, because Piece by Piece definitely a little bit more punky. And then like you start getting into a little bit more groove as you go on to the next group of songs. But I find they just take it in kind of a little bit more of a groove and melodic section. But this is direction. But this is a great track, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think it's also one of the songs I like for the lyrical content because
Hmm.
like they throw in the idea of satanic ritual, sacrifice, and then this pursuit of some dark power.
Yeah.
And then when you read the lyrics, it's like a victim gets brought to the table of hell and sacrificed. So the high priest is trying to appease Satan to get demonic powers. It's such a great. It's just wow. It
It
just
could be
kicks
a
you right in the
movie.
gut. What's that?
It could be a movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I can tell that they were so like inspired by cinema and horror and stuff. That's why I picked this album for tonight, because I figured this is the perfect album to talk about. So, anyways, Billy, what kind of thoughts do you have towards Altar of Sacrifice?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing, right? Like I think Jim had like literally the exact like vocal lines were
Yeah.
in my nose. Yeah, no, like I also think just kind of just around the 1 minute mark, yeah, Jeff and Carrie just sort of deliver what I'll call a master class in like soloing there. Just fantastic work there. And yeah, I agree. Like Tom's vocals are really good. There's also a bit of melody going on
Mhm.
here, like
Yeah, that's
in
right.
the chorus is pretty cool. And I also like the way the song ends so dramatically and
Mhm.
Yeah,
immediately rips into Jesus Saves. Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know that there's any intention or design that way, but for me it totally works, right? Like I kind of view the two things kind of go together hearing these two songs back to back.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think so. But I think you mentioned it. Both you guys mentioned it, that like I think there was a clear intention for Tom to slow down at 125 when he says enter the realm of Satan. Like he's very clear at that. So it's
Yeah.
obvious they're trying to get a response. They want you to really to like I guess freak out to that line, because what band back then would write a song and say clearly enter the realm of Satan? Not many would. Not many
Mhm.
would. So I think it's kind of funny. Um, but yeah, as you were saying, Billy, it leads into Jesus Saves. So what do you think of it, Billy?
Oh.
I think it's good, right? This
Yeah.
one's it's at least sort of the way it opens, right? It's like a slower or relatively slower, like mid-pace, like riffing, kind of for the first minute, right? Like with Dave doing some cool drumming and things, but then the tempo just like totally explodes, right? Like, and so I think that's a really good transition, right? There's a great like a cool riff like during that transition that really sticks to me. It goes into that blistering pace.
Yeah.
The chorus, this is another really good chorus, right?
Mhm.
It's catchy, it's easy to grab onto, which is not always the case for all the songs. But yeah, and just there's so many great like riffs in here, right? That just totally stick out. I mean, not as strong as the opener or the closer, but still like a great track. And again, I don't know where it would rank, but I think it's like really good. And another one where Tom's struggling to keep up on vocals.
Yeah. I had that in my notes too. That was the first
Yeah.
thing I thought. Well, King wrote this, so I mean, I'll give King a lot of props for it, because I mean, obviously, lyrically they're criticizing organized religion, and having blind faith. But what I also think is cool about this song is the fact that like the song's trying to get you to encourage you to think for yourself and
Mhm.
don't let religious dogma run your life. So I think it's clever in a lot of ways. I'll give King props for that, because I'm not a huge fan of his writing, but uh, this is great. It's such a great song. And what do you think of it, Jim?
Oh, one of my favorites. I
You
love it.
like it? Yeah, yeah. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
at 112 when those vocals cut in. I mean, you've got that slow kind of chug that leads into more of a gallop, but it's got such a great groove, and it's got that heavy riff to start. And I love the fact I believe the song ends on a solo. It's
yes,
like just
yeah.
and boom, it just ends.
And
It's
yeah,
wicked, but I think that's awesome. It's just it's a great song. You guys said it all. It's but I like and I love the sort of the irony with the Jesus saves.
yeah. The
Kind
flip
of taking a
side.
slap at organized religion. I
Yeah,
always like
yeah.
doing that. So this song just is awesome. Yeah.
I think the songs are perfect, because you get Altar of Sacrifice, you're talking about Satan and the devil, and then you get the flip side, Jesus saves. So I think
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. It's this album. What I think about this album is that I think it's all the songs are arranged in a very specific way, and I think they're done that way purposely. That's just my opinion, like viewing at it now, years later. But I like it. Altar of Sacrifice, and you get Jesus saves. Whoa.
Yeah, like I actually think to that point, Ken, that's a good point. I can't think of another album where the
Mm.
songs are so carefully placed.
Yeah.
It's like perfection, right? Like they all work perfectly, one after the best possible opener, the best possible closer, and even all these short mini tracks, they all feed off of each other really
Right.
well. It'd be a totally different experience if you jumbled them all.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that there's a lot of good synergy between each
Yeah.
song,
Yeah.
and that's right, because I don't know too many albums who have that kind of synergy from track 1 to say track 8 or track 10, but this definitely works. All right, so track number 6, Criminally Insane. Jim, let's hear some thoughts from you.
I can't believe this was a single. Like,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, this, I mean, can you imagine? And now we're going to play Slayer's single, hot on the charts, Criminally Insane. You know, like,
Yep.
this is a wicked song. That drum intro, again,
Yeah.
I mean, just pounds into the guitars that pick up. And, you know, this is another dual writing from Jeff and Carrie. So
Yep.
definitely cool. I mean, this is another classic Slayer track. The fast vocals, and I mean, I just, everything about it I love. This is a great track, and one of my favorites on there. And like you guys were saying, how it's placed, I mean, you're heading out of Altar, you went to Jesus, now you're hitting the Criminally Insane. You're covering all the areas of what we want to hear, so it's great. I mean,
Very true.
amazing. And I'm not a big lyricist guy, but I can get what the gist of the song is.
Yeah, so basically they decided to write a song that sort of gets you into the mindset of someone who's deemed criminally insane, and then they get locked away, and then the song gets deeper into the idea that, well, while you're criminally insane, you might be dealing with isolation and struggling to survive, I guess, in an oppressive system, like whatever, like if you're in a nut house. I'm assuming that's what a lot of it means, but it's interesting. It's interesting where their thought goes all over the place with the song. But this is a very sick song. You're right. Like, I mean, the Lombardo's drums, like, it's fantastic. The tempo is rapid, and that solo is really good too. And I like but I'll mention it. The part where it kind of sputters down at like 139.
Yeah,
And then
I
it
have
jumps back up.
135. I agree.
135. Okay, yeah. I know we always get the times off, but I love how it kind of sputters and then it just revs back up. It's so great. And Billy, what's your thoughts about Criminally Insane?
Yeah, so I think you guys hit them all, right? Like, so you guys mentioned the drum. I had the same thing, right? That slower kind of stop in the 135 mark and some great riffs it leads into. You know, for me, Tom's kind of interesting because he's got a little bit more of an evil tone on this one. Like he's trying something just slightly different. And the only other unique thing here, it doesn't really have, it's 2.5 minutes. So, but it doesn't really have a repetitive chorus.
No.
Like there isn't really a chorus perhaps. So I think that's kind of unique, but again, it all works. So another killer one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great song. And then this will slide back into number 7, which is Reborn. And Jim, what are your thoughts about Reborn?
Yeah, it's a good song. You know, it's again another fast one. I think it's only 2 minutes 11 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fast. You know, it's another, again, this is one that's written by King. I think the majority of them are written by King on this
yeah, most
this album.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, it's got the wicked guitar intro. It's a very, you know, this one is kind of interesting. If I had to pick probably a less favorite, but I love them all, I would probably, this would be in the back end of the album, just if there had to be a back end of the album. But it's a great track, and only 2 minutes 11 seconds. It just gets to business really quick and is over before it even kind of starts. So it's a great track.
Yeah, I'll give Carrie props here as well for the lyrics. So it's all like about reborn and the idea that there's a witch who gets convicted and sentenced to death, but the witch doesn't see that because the witch feels that death is just not the end; it's the start of something else. So it's kind of a cool song. I like it for that. So I've always said that I'm not a huge fan of Carrie's lyrics, but I have to admit, going back and listening to this album again, it's like, damn, that guy could write. That guy, I'll give him props. a good writer for the songs that he's doing here. All right, so Billy, what do you think of it? Does this song work for you as well, or?
Yeah, no, it sounds like I like it more than Jim does. To me, it's one of my favorites.
Ah,
Yeah,
Like I know King, like I never look at who writes the lyrics. I look at who
yeah,
writes the music. But
yeah,
you
sure,
guys
sure.
know, like this is a Hanneman track, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure, not a King track.
Music wise, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because most of the music is
it's
Hanneman,
Hanneman.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, this could be my third or fourth favorite.
Okay,
So yeah, I think it's only 2 minutes, but again, Dave like totally shines. There's some great like memorable riffs. Like I find this one has a bit of a punk feel too,
yeah,
slightly different in that sense. Like Tom, just like his pronunciation of the vocals like when he's saying I will be reborn, like it's just really like it's such a vocal hook,
yeah,
like it works for me. And then no games, right? This thing's just a quick ending, right? No time for silly fade outs, right? We only have like 20 some minutes to do this. So but again it works perfectly, right? Just to end
yeah,
it and let's get to the next like
Yeah.
vicious like track afterward. So yeah, I would have liked for this to be a bit longer because I actually like the song.
yeah. Yeah, I like the song too. I like the lyrical content, but I agree. Like it's punky at times. It has a pretty good solo. And I love that shot at the end. I will be reborn right at the
Yeah.
end of the song. That's
Mhm.
so great. It's like so cool. So yeah, it's a good song as well. Well, no bad songs here. Track number 8 is Epidemic. And Jim, what's your thoughts of it?
I like it. It's another lyrically written by King, another
Yeah,
one of his. I think it's a great song. It's got that wicked guitar chug intro that is so fast, and then it's only 2.5 minutes, roughly 2:24. It's got a wicked groove to it. This is another one that I find it's got a great groove to it. I think it's probably my most. I feel this is probably the most underrated song on the album because it's up against. There's so much good material on this album. I think this would be my sort of my black ace, if a dark ace that I'd have on the album that I'd like to go to for sure. I really dig this song.
cool. And Billy?
Yeah, no, again, like no weak songs here. It's
Yeah.
funny. Last time I did a podcast, this is the one I was mentioning earlier that I
Oh,
thought
okay, yeah,
was a bit weaker. Like it's, but then I was listening to it again this week over and over, and I don't know, I didn't really get that sense. So yeah, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I mean, it's a little bit more straightforward, right? Like
yeah,
it's not, there's not, some as many like tempo changes or
Yeah.
like that going on or any sort of there's some great riffs obviously but there's not that kind of one or two really memorable parts in the song, right? Like that really sticks home, or not like a Tom shouting at the end I will be, like there's nothing that I can really pull out, but nevertheless it's just a great like track, right? The aggression continues, it's just relentless.
yeah. And I like the way that King wrote the song because he's talking about the idea of society is dying and it's from disease and decay, and that the whole moral decay is making society rot. So I think it's a bit more of a thought provoking song. So it works that way for sure. Maybe you're right, Billy. I think it's a bit straightforward, but yeah, I think it's a good song. I have no issues with it at all. And all right, so we'll move on to the ninth track, which is Postmortem. And Billy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean another great track. Like I mean, this is like right up there. I mean, too. I mean, it's just more of the same. But here again, Dave like really shines. This is not as aggressive, like or
Yeah,
not as consistently aggressive, so that's cool. Even Tom's vocal delivery is not quite as aggressive. I mean, although he does have like an amazing scream in this track too. Kind of at the 145 minute mark. But yeah, again, like we're starting to sound a bit repetitive here, but again, where I think it works is it just perfectly sets up Raining Blood, right? Like it's
yeah,
kind
the
of
way it
ideal
ends,
the two
yes.
tracks together. Like if you were to stick like I don't know, like Epidemic before Raining Blood, something would be wrong, right?
Yeah.
or maybe that's just me because that's the way I know
No,
it.
no, I think you're
But
right.
deep
No, I
down,
think
I
you're right.
feel like it wouldn't be as good.
No, no, I would agree. It wouldn't be as
Yeah.
good. But I think the song is a bit slower. But then I kind of felt that the way it was written by Jeff and the idea of there's like an existential side to the song, and that where it's talking about what happens after death. Do you die? And the whole point is that the protagonist is grappling with this idea of or the meaning of transcendence into the beyond. Where does it take you? So I think the song kind of works perfectly around that notion. But you're right; it does set up probably like one of the most epic songs of all time,
Yeah.
next to Angel of Death, and that is Raining Blood. And Jim, I'm going to go to you first because I was reading your Facebook comment today when Jimmy K posted it about I think it was or it was I'm not I think it posted it, but you made a comment saying that that opening rain bit
Yeah.
to Raining Blood just makes your hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Oh yeah.
You're right. You're right. It's so iconic. So, Jim, lead us off with "Raining in Blood." Raining
Well, I
Blood.
mean, it's phenomenal. That intro is probably one of the best intros in heavy metal and thrash. I mean, this is my favorite song, but I'm like Billy. The first and last song, just what a bookended album for sure. And it's just, I mean, you're ending this album. You just made it it's a masterpiece with the ending of with this song on there, and it's that great. I mean, when it goes into sort of that quiet kind of start, that ominous start, and then that iconic riff breaks in. I mean, you just can't beat this. And one of my favorite, probably my top two, or if not my top favorite Slayer song of all time.
Yeah, and you know what? So Jeff and Carrie get back together to write lyrically the song. This song is like to me, it's like a mini movie because what I like about it is that it's all about vengeance. It's talking about power and all this dark imagery. And so they had this protagonist who basically is trapped in purgatory, but then is looking for that moment of retribution. So the song talks about being banished and then getting out to seek or wreak havoc upon heaven. So I think it's great. It's very cinematic, and I think the sound effect of the rain, really hammers that point home at the beginning and at the end of the song. Like it's so great. And Billy, what do you want to add to the song?
Yeah, no, for me, this is the second best track easily. And
You're
it's,
saying, yeah.
I mean, it's about, I mean, you could, I mean, I said it before, they're the two best, I think they're the two best Slayer tracks for sure. Like, I do think the Angel of Death comes out slightly ahead, but yeah, like you guys mentioned the opening, right? You just kind of hear the rain, but like, the very ominous, but it's Dave's light drumming.
Drumming,
Like it's just an iconic opening, and then it goes into one of the best riffs like ever written, and then lights out. Right, we're into full like thrash mode, and this is where like Dave's just beating the crap out of that kit. It is so good. Again, I said one of the best riffs ever. But like at 2:10, when like Tom shouts like "Your time slips away,"
Yeah.
like it's such a great part. It just sets off, right? And then it leads into that like slow, like crunching guitar section. And I remember reading that people feel like that part is probably the first breakdown that was kind of that you could reference in music as like a guitar breakdown. So, and I can see that like in that part of the song. And then at 2:40, you just got like Tom like exploding with that scream, raining in blood. Again, another great kind of vocal line, the chaotic guitar solos, and then you hit it, Ken. Like the thunder and rain comes in and just ends the song. So again, you couldn't have had a better ending, right? Like, because you put Angel of Death at the beginning, which is probably the more vicious of the two, but this is the more dramatic one, and so it closes it perfectly.
Well, that lyric is so great. Like "Raining Blood," "Lacerated Sky." That to me is like such a great line. It's just, oh my God. It's when he says that, it's like, and it's great because he doesn't repeat that throughout the song. It's not like "Raining Blood," "Lacerated Sky." It's not in the chorus. It's just that one moment, and it just puts the exclamation point on the song for me. Anyways, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And
And those guitar solos, right?
Yeah.
Where the two guys, I mean, chaotic's the best word, right? Like it's crazy the stuff they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to anyone else it'd be noise, but like to us metal fans, it's like heaven.
Oh yeah, ironically, yeah, pardon the pun.
And every time you
Yeah.
see it, like every time you see it on live, the crowd just, oh man, just
Yeah.
explodes. Just
Well, they know.
explodes. Even
Yeah.
casual Slayer fans love this song.
Like, didn't Slayer perform? I think it was this, like on one of the biggest like night talk shows ever. They performed
Yep.
Living Blood.
I think it was
Who
Jimmy,
was that?
Jimmy
What show?
Kimmel.
Was it Jimmy Kimmel? I don't
think
know. I
it
can't
was, yeah.
remember. Okay.
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel is pretty edgy at times, so I could see
Yeah.
that. That would make the most sense.
Yeah,
It
I think
was.
it was this song. Maybe I'm wrong, but I
No,
see
it was.
somewhere they
It
did
was?
this song.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to go on YouTube and look it up. I'm sure there's a clip of it there.
Oh,
Yeah, no, there is. Yeah, that's where, yeah, you can see it. And it's pretty crazy,
Okay.
right? Because you can guarantee 99% of that audience is like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, they're like, what? This?
I think I kind of got the feeling watching it. I can't remember if it was Jimmy Kimmel or not, but I kind of got the feeling it was like, oh, here's these guys. And they came out and just ripped it. And it was like flawless, amazing, you know. And I think it really was like for Slayer fans. And I agree. Like Billy said, I don't think there was really any Slayer fans there. It was just the people of the show, fans of the show. But I just think it was almost kind of like, oh, look at this. And then all of a sudden it was like, holy shit, these guys are like talented. I kind of got that by the end of it. I was like, yeah, proud.
I was so happy to see that, right?
Yeah.
Like proud that like
Yep.
there's my band, right? Like they're up there, right? Like
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so that's the album, Rain and Blood. Do you guys have any thoughts about it? Any further thoughts, Jim?
Go and buy it.
I know you do. I know you're like a huge Slayer fan.
I rated 20 out of 10.
Yeah, it's killer. I mean, these, just are such great albums. I wish, no videos, no nothing. Back in the day, you saw pictures of them in magazines, maybe some live clips on Much Music or whatever, and you were just like wanting more every time they released an album. But I think, wow, it's just what a hell of an album. And just again, people who are getting into heavy metal, this is one of those ones that you need to get issued to you when you join the club, so to speak, because it's just that important of an album.
Well, I'll say this much. Any idiot would never rate this under a 10. And if you did, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. You're a complete idiot because there's no fucking way this album is not 10.
Oh, man, so many
Billy
Slayer
just said
albums
20 out of 10.
Funny though, like a lot of like our some of the other podcast channels out. I mean, it's always like top 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who have it like third, or like it's not that uncommon. Like,
really. Okay.
So I mean, they don't have anything bad to say about it, but you get a lot of people, who stick with the first, like Hell Awaits or Show No Mercy, and then I hear a lot of people pick. I'm having a mind blank. What's after South of Heaven there?
Oh, Seasons.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people pick. Usually they're the younger people picking.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's
For me,
I
like
commercial
Seasons.
Slayer.
Yeah. I mean, War Ensemble is a great song. But
I kind of like Seasons. I think Seasons has some songs that I kind of like.
Skeletons of Society, Hollowed Point. What's the other one? Dead Skin Mask.
Dead Skin Mask. Yeah, I love that song.
Oh!
I love that song. It's so great. Didn't you say, Billy, that you weren't crazy about Dead Skin Mask? I thought it was you.
Yeah, I don't know. For like those 2 songs on there, like those, I don't know, like those slower. I mean, they're okay, and maybe part of it is because they have the videos, and I always have them. So it kind of killed it a bit for me. But if I look at that record, like those tracks are towards the bottom for me.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a lot of the songs are much more, I guess, commercially driven, or at least I don't know. I think maybe that's why maybe people don't like it as much.
Well, the production, the production, that would be, I'd consider that maybe a bit of their Black album. They
Okay.
didn't change, and it's a great album.
Right.
But
Yeah,
it's a
that's
little,
true.
it's really slick, it's slick.
Yeah.
But I mean, and like, I think the title track's the one with the video with the horses and stuff, and it was a really high-end video, and it just, Slayer looked like they washed, and it pissed me off. They're dirty.
But I think War Ensemble is the best song on the
Great
record.
track.
Yeah, that's a good song. I like that song too.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jim, I got to correct you. Sorry, we're wrong. It is 4 albums because he did see. Larry Carroll did the cover to Seasons in the Abyss as well.
Oh, that's right.
4 records.
Yes, he did. You're right.
4 records that he's done.
Right. I had that written down actually.
And I love that. And I love that cover too. By the way,
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool cover.
I got to see Seasons on the 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary.
I saw that as well. Yeah.
And they came with Megadeth and I think Testament.
Yeah.
Filled in. And oh my God. So Megadeth, they co-headlined, and Megadeth did Rust in Peace. They did Seasons. So it was wicked.
Who headlined, Jim?
Sorry?
Who did you say headlined?
I would have been on that. Oh God, I remember seeing it.
Well, I think they were flipping back and forth.
They were flipping.
Right?
I saw.
Yeah, because that's a tough one to call. Yeah.
I think I saw Megadeth last.
Okay, because Slayer was headlining on South of Heaven, so
yeah.
I saw the Toronto. I saw the Toronto show, and I think you're right, Jim. I think Megadeth closed. It was Slayer, then Megadeth. They closed, if I remember correctly.
That was on the 35th year. I didn't see the Seasons tour though for the first time.
Oh, right, yeah. I saw the It was like pretty much the last tour that you were able to see Jeff play.
Yeah.
I mean, Billy, I know you've seen him several times, haven't you, Billy? I'm sure you have.
Slayer?
Yeah, Slayer.
Yeah, like I'd have to use all 10 of my fingers a couple times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that.
I've seen them 3, so that's pretty good.
Okay, yeah.
I saw them like 6 or 7 times on just a farewell tour.
Oh yeah, that's right. You said you went
all 3 phases of it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, like, I'm glad people got the chance to see them play, and now you can sort of watch Carrie play Slayer songs. I did watch some of the videos. I was watching some of the YouTube videos when they did the reunion in Chicago.
Yeah.
They looked damn good on stage, and they sounded great.
Wicked.
Yeah.
They sounded great. Like,
yeah. I don't know why I slept not getting tickets for those 2 reunion shows, but if they do it again in 2025, I'll catch it.
They're going to do it. You know that.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will.
I just hope it'll be like a big festival. I already plan on going.
Yeah, that would save you the ticket from going out there again.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Toronto show for Kerry King. I'm definitely going to go in February. I want to check it out.
Cool.
I want to see what it's like. Hopefully it'll be cool.
And who else is on that again? I forget.
It's Municipal Waste.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Yeah. And that other band Alien something.
Alien Weaponry or
Weaponry. That's right. Yeah, that's the other band that's on. They are a thrash band. I looked them up, so they do play thrash.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. At least it's a like an all-out thrash show.
So. Well, they'd be really out of place with those 2 bands if they were power metal. They wouldn't get a great reception.
No, they would not. All right, guys. So that'll wrap up. Talking about the album. So we always like close our show with a top 10 of some kind. So because it was Halloween, I suggested like maybe doing a top 10 of thrash metal, but it could be horror themed. So like in this case, it could be a lyrics, could be an album cover, could be the band image, whatever you thought kind of worked as horror for you. So we did a top 10 of it. And who wants to go first today?
I can go first.
Go ahead.
All right, cool. So yeah, I wouldn't say these are ranked like one in any particular order, but I was able to, because most of mine will be cover related, so I was able to pull the covers. But so you got to go with this to start with. You got to have Halloween, right? So just the band name qualifies, the pumpkin in the logo qualifies, and this is the Dark Ride, which is a good name because it's one of their darkest albums, but it has the evil pumpkin on the front, right? So you're not going to get any more Halloween than that.
You got it.
My second pick is I have it on CD. I couldn't find it, but Hellstar,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nosferatu,
Yes.
was my pick, right? So, I mean, it was written and based to some degree off Bram Stoker's
Stalker's
Dracula.
Dracula.
So,
Yeah.
it actually has a film, a clip from the film adaptation as well. So that's kind of cool. And then the second reason I would pick it is the vocalist James Rivera, who very much plays up the vampire. He's totally into vampires. I got to
Yep.
see him earlier this year. He's got the vampire teeth. He wears the cape. Like he's exactly
Sweet.
what you would think a vampire would be.
Cool.
In one of his sets, he did two. He came out in a coffin. Everyone carried out like a full-size coffin, placed it on the stage, and the door kind of opens, and he gets up. And so yeah, like I think of that for sure when I think Halloween. Number three is a band, Night Demon. So I think I can
Oh, good
call this
choice.
for a couple reasons, right? The band's name kind of sounds a bit like Halloween related.
Yep.
Like their very first kind of like EP. This was like a reissue of it, but it has a song called "The Chalice." And anyone
Yep.
who's seen the band live knows that the Night Demon will actually come out all dressed up, and he'll have like the red, like searing eyes. So again, you've got the name, their most famous kind of move in the live show, where the guy comes out, and then album wise, you actually get this is going to be like a 3-for-1 here. But their albums are very like horror themed, right? So you got
Yes.
Curse of the Damned, which could be like
Oh, yeah.
poster of like a horror movie. So
Yep.
kind of makes sense. And even their Darkness Remains is like
Yep.
Cool.
suits to like a Halloween theme. So basically that kind of nails it for three reasons, I guess. And then I was thinking, well, like a horror cover, right? So you got to have like Iron Maiden. And then I'm like, well, which Maiden album do I choose? And so I didn't know this, but I guess so. I ended up going with Iron
Ooh,
Maiden,
Number the
Number of the
Beast.
Beast, just because of the
Yeah.
album. But I read like there was an interview with Steve Harris, who basically said he wrote the song after having a like the actual song Number of the Beast was like because he had a bad dream after watching the 1978 movie Damien Omen 2.
Yeah.
And so that kind of led to the start of it. So that was from his words. I have no idea if that's true, but I assume he's not lying. Um, so that's that. Number 10, I'm going Testament. And so another sort of common theme of horror movies, I guess, are kind of like demonic type things. So
Yeah. Good choice.
Testament,
Yeah.
demonic, and sort of the album is loosely based on like the concept of exorcism and that
Yep.
great opening track, Demonic Refusal. So I think this was a pretty good fitting song. Like I
Yep.
kept picking stuff out and adding things in, but it was a fun exercise. And I wanted to do Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon, because I think that kind of album cover, it's kind
It's
of
horror.
whole
Yep.
thing. So I actually don't have that on vinyl, but I ended up going with the live album Speak of the Devil. So
Oh,
it
good
kind of
one.
has that kind of feel to it as well, right? The Dracula teeth and the bat. And so yeah, that kind of has a Halloween feel for me. Then we go something that wasn't a first on my list until, so I guess you could argue Death, Scream, Blood.
Woo, good one.
Like anything with like zombies is kind of
Yep.
good for Halloween, but it has the song Zombie Ritual. So yeah, so that zombies are a big part of like Halloween movies. But
Well,
I guess I read when I was looking at this, and Ken, you would know this. I don't even know who the hell the guy is, but apparently Chuck wrote it, influenced by the movie Zombie by
yes.
some guy named Lucio Fulci or
Yeah, Lucio
uh,
Fulci. Yeah, he's one of the most famous Italian zombie movie directors out
okay.
there.
So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
you
yeah.
go. So then that little tidbit I found is right. So yeah, so
Look,
that further makes it like a
this
Halloween theme.
the song "Evil Dead's" on there too from
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Sam.
would be yeah, that would be a good one too. So
That's a
the
good
whole
choice.
album would be good.
Yeah.
And then another one, like my first pick, Halloween. And I guess with Halloween, you could have also picked the first Keepers album that has the song Halloween. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
I only say that because that applies here. Uh, so
Oh yeah,
you could do King Diamond, or you could do
yeah. Horror
Merciful
Merciful
related.
Fate.
Fate. The whole concept, right? Like the stage show, the elaborate stage shows, the makeups, the concept stories. I mean, all that's like totally Halloween. But this thing actually has a song called Halloween, and it's a great song. So again, you can't get more Halloween than a song called
Nope.
Halloween. And then I don't know. This is maybe I mean, not controversial, but it's a weird one. I pick it because just the album cover makes me think of like Halloween, because it's like kind of like a creepy and kind of like a haunted house, but this will be unexpected. Uh,
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's cool.
so the
sabotage. Yeah,
last
yeah,
Sabotage album, right? Like to me, this is like so creepy and has
yeah.
all the the dark bird and the fence and kind of the whole like haunted house type thing. So
Well, it has like a gothic element to it.
Yeah.
yeah, true. Yeah. And then my last band, and it doesn't apply to the first couple, but it applies for the next bunch, Running Wild.
Oh, good
So I
one.
just pulled like Port Royal. And
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
basically, this is the band going in. The first couple albums were, typical, like, Slayer type lyrics, like Satan and stuff. But then they went into the pirate theme. So again,
Pirates,
probably
yeah.
one of the most common Halloween costumes would be a pirate. So all these couple albums following the pirate theme make me think of Halloween. So
I
um,
I love the opening to the opening to that album where he's like you hear the walking and
yeah,
then
yeah,
Mhm.
he's like where am I, where am I, he goes, you know where you are, you're in Port Royal. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
that opening is so great.
yeah.
Great album. That's a really good album.
And then the
Cool.
one idea, I don't own anything, and this came up on another podcast when we talked about. I think a good one would be Guar, just because
Yeah.
again they have the whole show and the costumes and all the crazy blood and stuff. So again, that's a perfect Halloween. But I didn't have a sample to show, so
Or
uh,
Lordy. The band Lordy would it be as well because they kind of like I guess patent themselves after Guar.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, cool. I mean, we probably could go on for hours and hours. There's so many bands.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. Okay, so that's a great list, Billy. You have a lot of really good bands on there. And Jim, what do you have for our list?
Yeah, we have a couple duplicates, but
Oh,
I
okay,
went the Merciful Fate route instead of King Diamond and
okay.
picked
okay.
Don't Break the Oath. I mean, again, like Billy said, you could swap out any King Diamond or Merciful Fate album. I like the most recent Merciful Fate 2-9. Has that Savior Soldier Soul on it. Wicked song. But I mean, Don't Break the Oath, classic, good Halloweeny type. It's got Satan on the front pointing. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Number 9, I went with, and this is kind of a cool one and very controversial. I went with Acid Baths, When
Oh,
the
yeah,
Kite
yeah.
String Pops. And the reason is John Wayne Gacy did the
That's on the
painting
cover.
for
Yes.
the cover. So
Yeah.
it's him as the clown and, a serial killer. One of my favorite sludge stoner metal bands of all time. I love Acid Bath. And,
Cool. That's a
it's
good
just
one.
a wicked, creepy ass clown
Yeah.
cover, which is
I
a
had
real
that
so.
album.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
have it.
A number, I didn't really put these in order either. My next one would be Hordes of Chaos.
Ooh.
I like the cover for that album with the Joachim Lutke.
Yes.
He did the artwork for it, and it's just been re-released. So this was the 2009, but then they just re-released it this year. Hordes of Chaos got a really good kind of spooky demonic cover on the front of
From
it. So
Creator too,
yeah,
because you
Creator.
mentioned
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
Creator.
Yeah, amazing. And then I went with Destruction, and I mean, you could have picked so many from Destruction. Release from Agony, the album art
Yeah,
on
good
that.
one.
Yeah, it's pretty freaky, man. That's just like, I mean,
Great
that
album cover.
Yeah, it's wicked, wicked. Then I picked the song, which is one of my favorite Slayer songs, "At Dawn They Sleep," from Hell Awaits. Love that song. Yeah, great, great song. Vampires, can't go wrong. And then I picked the Demonic Refusal that Billy picked as well. But I also picked, I have two testaments here. I also went
Okay.
with Souls of Black. And
Oh yeah. That's cool.
the cover art on that was always pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Pretty neat. But the demonic album, the Demonic Refusal from Demonic album is just amazing. It's got a great song. There's some good songs on it. I mean, a little bit more deathy metal than their usual thrash, but the cover is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I went with Death, Scream, Bloody Gore as well.
Good choice. Good choice.
I mean, geez, this is like, and the zombie references are just amazing. Bark at the Moon, went with Ozzy. I mean, the video on that, I remember seeing it as a kid, loved it. God, I think I showed it to my daughter just a few months ago, and it freaked her out at 8 years old. So I'm breaking her in to metal, starting with Ozzy. The next one I've got is the song from Peace Sells, "The Conjuring."
Cool. Good song.
Great Halloween. Yeah, it was a good scary movie. Megadeth did this, one of my favorite songs on the album, wicked Megadeth tune. But my number one, and I didn't rate these, but I love Slayer's "Dead Skin Mask."
Yeah,
that
good
is like,
Ed
Gein. You've got the serial killer, the kid in it, and he's there and he's getting ready, doesn't know what he's in for, but anyways, he's done. And it's just a freaky, and I just love the chorus to it. And I mean, every time I've seen Slayer play, they've played it live. An amazing track, and it's just really got that creepy sound. My wife hates it. She hates the sound of the kid in the when it plays on the stereo, and anything that pisses her off is good. So.
Nice.
So a couple of the same ones Billy picked there, but I mean, you gotta have Ozzy, "Bark at the Moon." I mean, it's Halloween.
Yeah, no, and he had makeup, and they did him in the makeup as the werewolf. So I mean, like, it's great.
And I think his son was in the video.
Yes.
He played the doctor, I think, or
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
That was pretty cool especially for way back when, because at that point I didn't even realize Ozzy had another. Like, I thought his only kids were Kelly and Jack. I didn't know he had
a previous marriage.
The other son from another marriage. Yeah.
That's good cool. Good choice, Jim.
Yeah.
All right, so my list is going to be a lot different than what you guys got, but that's cool. I mean,
you're a horror specialist. I'm not.
Sure.
That's true. Billy are we're horror lightweights.
No worries. So I'll start at number 10. I did go from 10 to 1. So at number 10, I have Possessed. They are almost like the original kind of death thrash horror related band, because they had songs that covered The Exorcist, the sequel, The Heretic, and they did a song called For Phantasm. So like their first two albums, Seven Churches and Beyond the Gates are incredible albums. So they're such a great band. And the new album was pretty good too. I like that new album that just came out a few years back. That's a pretty solid album. And number 9, I'm going to go with a band that you may not know. It's a one album band. The band is called Exorcist. They're from New York. They had an album out called Nightmare Theater. You can look it up. The cover's got like, I'm assuming it's the band members all like in zombie makeup. So it's kind of neat. The cover's really cool. It's got a lot of really good songs on, like Burnt Offerings, Possessed, Black Mass, The Hex. Look, it's pretty good. It's not entirely, I wouldn't say it's death. It's more like speed metal, but with some thrashy parts. But if you ever get a chance to look it up, because it's only one album, and I have a copy of it. At number 8, I'm going with Blood Feast. Now, Blood Feast is another great band that's started out in the 80s with Kill for Pleasure and Chopping Block Blues. Again, very, very horror themed. So they've had songs like Vampire, Cannibal. Their name does actually come from the 1963 American splatter film called Blood Feast by Herschel Gordon Lewis. You can look that up too. Those early 60s movies are just nothing but buckets of gore. pretty cool band. They broke up, but they've come back and actually released, I think, 2 albums since the reformation. Number 7, I'm going to go with Deceased. I've always liked King Fowley. He played bass, he did drums, he's vocals, and they're a great band. I like their first album, Luck of the Corpse. But for me, it's the trio of albums that came afterwards, Blueprints for Madness in 95, Fearless Undead Machine in 1997, and Supernatural Addiction in 2000. Really, really good stuff. They use a lot of horror themes in their music. They do have a new album out that just came out called Children of the Morgue, which I've heard is pretty good. So yeah, that's a band I've always been on my radar. At number 6, and I've talked about this before, Send More Paramedics, a crossover thrash band from the UK. And as I mentioned on a previous podcast, they took their name from the movie Return of the Living Dead. That scene where the zombies attack the paramedics and one of them gets on the CB radio and says, "Send more paramedics." It's a great band. Unfortunately, 4 albums, and now they've called it quits in 2021. What could you do? Number 5, I'm going to go with Poltergeist. I know, Billy, this is a band that you like.
Yeah.
Thrash metal from Switzerland. Andre Gieder's the vocalist who was on that One Destruction album. I like their 1991 album Behind My Mask. So that cover is just really gruesome. And they've released some killer albums. They've come back, of course, with that 2016 Back to the Haunt, and then Feather of Truth in 2020. Great band. Look them up if you ever had the opportunity to do that.
And even
Number
the name
4,
applies.
yeah.
It's a famous horror movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes, like exactly. That's where they've taken their name from, is from the movie Poltergeist, which is a classic.
And Billy, on that, and Ken, did you guys realize in the first Poltergeist movie, did they use real skeletons in the pool scene?
Yes, they did. And they got in trouble they got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that kind of thing, but they did use real skeletons.
Wow.
True fact.
This is gonna be. I don't want to take us on a tangent, but how the hell did they even get a hold of skeletons?
That's what I was gonna ask. Like,
hard to say. I'm sure they went somewhere. I don't know where they would have got it from, but yeah.
Okay.
Pretty crazy. So number 4 for me, I put Evil Dead on my list, obviously because we've done a podcast on them, but their name is taken from Sam Raimi's classic film Evil Dead. The opening track on the opening album, Awakening, Annihilation of Civilization, has the SCI, the Awakening, and then they do sample a moment from Evil Dead, which is great. So I put them on my list. Then my top 3, these are probably very typical if you know me well enough. Number 3 is Anthrax. I've did many articles and videos on Anthrax, as they are pretty much probably the de facto band when it comes to covering Stephen King.
mm-hmm.
As we all know, they've covered Among the Living, they covered The Stand, Poltergeist with the cover, Skeletons in the Closet, which is the apt pupil short story from Stephen King. And then they've also covered King's The Dark Tower. They did 2 songs, Alone Justice, and then they recovered it again with Breathing Lightning. So, they have to go on my list. Number 2, I'm putting FKU, Freddy Krueger Underwear. And I know Jim and I did a podcast with another individual on another show, and that was a fun talk. They're from Sweden, total thrash metal, but with a horror theme as their gimmick. We talked on a previous podcast of their 1981 album. Well, the album is called 1981. And they covered songs like Hell Night, The Burning, The Funhouse, Halloween 2, House by the Cemetery. That was such a great album. Totally loved it.
That was cool.
And yeah, it was a good, it's a really good band. I really like their stuff. And my number 1 choice, and they'll always go back to this, Rigor Mortis. That absolutely first album is killer. And I say this again because for me, growing up and reading Fangoria magazine, I saw the ad, and I know that ad just spoke to me with this kind of skull with long, greasy hair, and the eye sockets were banged out, so it's pretty wild. And then you had the mace and the axe in the background, and the crossbones with the bones in the back. I loved it, and it was just this red on a red background cover, so striking. And it said, "If you dare buy this album," I'm like, oh my god. So I have it. I love that album. It's so great. They've covered songs like Wizard of Gore, Reanimator. The only sad thing for me is that both Mike Sakia and Bruce Corbett have passed on, so their legacy will be in 3 albums only. But yeah, that's my number one choice.
Even their album, what was that? Was it EP or album Freaks?
Freaks, EP.
That has like the circus freak people. That's kind of like a spooky, crazy album cover too.
And there was controversy when that album came out because a lot of people were against the cover because they used freaks, of course, right?
Yeah, I found a copy of that on vinyl recently.
Oh, did you? Oh,
yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's a great album. I love all their albums. I even love the when Bruce came back with his new band, the War Beast?
Yeah.
And he did a couple albums, but yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that they both passed away. But it's burned in my mind. I'll never forget. I just remember reading Fangoria and I saw that ad and I was like, holy shit, I gotta get this.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to find it because I wasn't really a vinyl collector for records. I was CD, but I never found it on CD until years later. So I'm happy I have it, but it's hard to find. And I remember that show we went to, Billy, the record show. You wanted that record and it was gone. Remember that?
Yeah. I mean, that first one, we never knew what it went for, but I know it goes for like easy $300-400 on vinyl. And there's never been any represses, so you're out of luck. And even that, like I have the original CD. And that goes for like $100, or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I had the CD as well. Yeah, I know it's nuts. But if you're a collector and you really want to get that band, that's an album worth seeking out. At least I would think. All right, so that was a fun top 10. We all have some interesting band choices and stuff like that. So that's cool. And I guess do you guys have anything else to say before we close up the Halloween show?
No, the only thing you mentioned, King Fowley, like I think he's really cool, but he's also one of the, like what we do, this podcasting talking about metal. He's probably my favorite podcaster talking about metal. Like he doesn't have his own podcast, but he's a regular on. I always have trouble. Like I love Marty and Alan, their podcast, Heavy Metallurgy.
Yes.
And yeah, King's on there all the time, right? He's he's got a killer sense of humor. He knows, I mean, nobody knows more metal than he does. And then he brings the angle of being like in a band, right? So he's the whole pack. In terms of podcasts, he's like, I'm a fanboy to his like podcasting.
Are you a fan of Deceased at all, Billy?
Of what? Oh, yeah. No, I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought so. I thought you might be.
And their latest album's quite good too.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like kind of death thrash metal. They're kind of not really in one genre, but they're like in a bunch.
Yeah.
But they never put out a bad album. The albums are always good for me. And I like the last album they put out too. It was pretty strong.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever seen them live, actually.
Really? Wow. Okay.
I don't think so.
One band that you've not seen live.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they tour a lot, though, do they?
No, not really. They do smaller one-off shows, I think.
That's what I would figure. I don't think the band is really like a household name, even though they've been around since like the early 90s and they've got like a ton of records out. But
yeah, and I think King had like a stroke or something too, right? So
yeah, that's right. A few years back,
he's had some health issues, so I don't think he's someone to go touring like across the world. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I like them. I think they're good.
Me too.
All right, so we're gonna close out our Halloween show, and hopefully everyone, once we post this up, you can leave your favorite horror band or whatever music album, whatever in the comments. We'd love to hear from everybody. That would be great. And next week, so we've decided to for episode 34, we're going to be doing Annihilator's Alice in Hell. That's a tape from '89. Such a great record. I know we've did a podcast from another life somewhere else, but we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it Thrashcast style. So you'll get an in-depth look at the album. So it'll be a lot of fun. So, all right.
Cool.
So, guys, we'll sign off, and happy Halloween to everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Wicked.
Night.